Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the first half of Star Rail's 3.1 banners today. The first character we're going to be looking at is the new character Tribbie, but we're also going to be taking a look at the other character on the other side of the banner, Yunli. Let's go through both of these banners and see whether or not these characters are a good pulling option for you. Now, on to the video.
The first character we're going to be talking about is Tribbie. Now, looking at Tribbie, her basic attack is going to be based off of doing damage with her max HP, and then going right into her skill, it states that it gains numinosity lasting for 3 turns. This duration decreases by 1 of those 3 turns at the start of this unit's every turn. While Tribbie has numinosity, increases all allied targets all type resistance pen by 24% at level 10. And looking at the ultimate, it states that it activates a zone and deals quantum damage equal to 30% of Tribbie's max HP to all enemies. While this zone will last, it increases enemy targets' damage taken by 30%. After an allied target attacks, for every target hit, deals 1 instance of quantum additional damage equal to 12% of Tribbie's max HP to the target that has the highest HP among the targets. The zone lasts for 2 whole turns, and this duration decreases by 1 at the start of this unit's every turn. She even has a special talent that does some extra, follow-up attacks that kind of focus a little bit more with her max HP after other allied characters use their ultimate. She will then do this follow-up attack. If the enemy target is defeated before the follow-up attack from Tribbie is launched, then the follow-up attack will then jump onto the newly entered enemies that come into the battlefield in the next wave or something like that.
Now quickly going over Yunli and what she does. Basic attack is nothing really special. You're just going to deal some physical damage based on her attack to a single enemy. Her skill, though, is going to restore HP equal to 30% of her attack plus 200 when you have this skill at level 10. And it will also then, you're going to deal physical damage equal to 120% of her attack to a single enemy and physical damage equal to 60% of her attack to adjacent targets. With her ultimate, she's going to consume 120 energy, and then Yunli gains parry and taunts all enemies, lasting until the end of the next ally's or enemy's turn. Also, at the same time, you're going to increase the crit damage dealt by Yunli's next counter by 100%. When triggering the counter effect from the talent, which we'll go over here in a second, it will launch the counter into it Cull instead and removes the parry effect. If no counter is triggered while parry is active, Yunli will immediately launch the counter Intuit Slash on a random enemy target. Basically, the Intuit Cull is the more powerful hit that you want to have triggered, and the Slash is the less powerful that will happen automatically. So in short, when you use Yunli's ultimate, you want to use this before an enemy goes to take their action, because then Yunli will taunt that enemy, and the enemy now has to hit Yunli, and when that happens, Yunli counters and does a massive amount of damage. That's basically how she works. Now looking at her talent, when Yunli gets attacked by an enemy target, you're going to additionally regenerate 15 energy and immediately launch that counter I was just talking about on that attacker, dealing physical damage equal to 120% of Yunli's attack to the attacker and physical damage equal to 60% of Yunli's attack to the adjacent targets. So it does have some AoE, which is very good. If there's no immediate target to counter for some reason, then the counter is actually going to happen on a random enemy target instead.
Now we're going to be looking a little bit beyond the characters and talk about some specific questions looking at the banners. And actually the first question we talk about always is, do you actually need either character on your account? Really looking at how valuable each character is. Now in terms of looking at characters like Tribbie and Yunli, maybe not necessarily meta defining or characters that you may not specifically always need. Tribbie is going to be obviously a new character for us, and from what we've seen and from what she's getting put with, a lot of her teams seem to be focused on the AoE aspect. The more enemies you hit, the usually better it is for Tribbie, and therefore the better that she can do damage. Usually just kind of focuses in that way. Also characters that love to use their ultimates, which is then also helping Tribbie as well, because then she can get that follow-up attack off. So there's a lot to kind of go with AoE and constant hitting multiple enemies at the same time while using ultimates. So usually the better character that you're going to see her usually paired with is going to be the Herta, even Herta and Jade, some other characters like that. Your erudition units are probably going to be a little bit more useful specifically for Tribbie. Now she does have the ability to use that follow-up attack, but from what we can kind of figure out, she's really not going to be exceptionally well for those follow-up attack specific teams, considering those teams already have some pretty good characters in those lineups. She can be, but once again, really not necessary from what you're really looking at here. Looking at that a little bit further though, beyond Tribbie, talking about Yunli, honestly, Yunli is a good character and a fun character at that, so if you have her, you already know that you enjoy her. Usually though, when we look overall at her as a character, you really don't get to see too much usability in terms of meta and stuff like that. So it's not to say that she's a bad character, it's just that there are other options to rather use. If you're looking for physical units that are absolutely insane, characters like Argenti are still available, and even characters like Boothill, hopefully we'll get a rerun in the future or have just happened, so you probably already have him. Those characters work exceptionally well and already do really well, and especially kind of this whole idea of, kind of being the destruction unit. Honestly, you could probably just try to find and use them in different areas. So once again, Boothill or Argenti are going to be pretty solid options to use. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't mean necessarily that Yunli is a terrible character. She's actually a very good character. It's just really not necessarily something that is going to be extremely valuable in the game.
Looking at our next question, we ask, what kinds of teams are you trying to build? Looking firstly at Tribbie, she's a Harmony character, and from some footage that we have seen, she does really well. She seems kind of like a second Robin in a sense. She has a follow-up in the kit, but mainly like her skill giving you this resistance penetration increase. You're going to deal more damage no matter what team that looks like. The burst kind of creating a zone. Now the enemies just take 30% more damage when that is level 10. That's just a straight up damage increase as well. So she seems pretty universal, can be worked around a lot of different teams. And that just reminds me once again of Robin, because Robin is just so universal. Now, I'm not saying that the Harmony supports are not universal. They're just a little bit more specific to maybe having other characters favor them a little bit more. Like we all know that Sparkle usually does a little bit better with characters that like to be selfish with their damage and kind of more like hyper carries. Like you can do hyper Jingliu, hyper Argenti, hyper Zila, and there's a lot of characters like that usually that you just do a pair with Sparkle and Sunday together. Whereas Robin is a character that's just more, I can help anything no matter what. I have an advanced forge for everyone. That's just going to be good for any team. So with her being one of the most universal supports, and now having Tribbie kind of being a second version of that, I think automatically makes Tribbie a very good option to have on your account, especially if you don't already have a character like Robin. She can be a good substitute for Robin. She has pretty good damage, Tribbie this is. The extra damage, that additional damage you see with her ultimate happening with when you just do damage, once again, it reminds me of Robin, because Robin's just doing additional physical damage. Similarly, Tribbie's doing additional quantum damage, and it's not terrible. Now, you can't rely on it fully because she's not the DPS in the team, but it is a nice kind of supplemental damage increase to the team while also just increasing everyone's damage. So when you're kind of building a team around Tribbie, like Vixen stated earlier, going over her kit, she does like the AoE teams a little bit more, I would think. Footage with the Herda was really, really good, and I think they were even using a Serval, and that team did amazing and actually cleared MOC. So when you use Tribbie, I think most of the time AoE teams, but I still think a Fei Xiao team is what came to my mind, just because I wanted to know, well, what would that look like? Because Fei Xiao's team is already very, very good, and so you have to make a sacrifice if you want to try to slot Tribbie in somewhere. If we look at the typical Fei Xiao team, it's Fei Xiao, Topaz, Robin, Aventurine. Obviously, Aventurine has to stay because he's the sustain there. So you're really looking at Topaz and Robin. And so which one are you going to get rid of that's going to help Fei Xiao the most? And that's honestly a very difficult question, especially just in terms of talk and theory, because it's kind of just one of those things I have to playtest, because Topaz really is an amazing support for a character like Fei Xiao. Massive follow-up damage increase while also being kind of another DPS on the team to kind of supplement Fei Xiao. But the thing is, Tribbie has a lot of her own damage as well. Yes, it's a follow-up attack, so that's going to help Fei Xiao. So it's a give and take. You're taking away one good thing to substitute with another good thing in just kind of a different way. So I feel like it's a give or take with whether or not you want to sub Topaz or Robin. It just kind of depends on what are you actually fighting and what endgame content are you in. I think ultimately you keep Topaz and Robin, and now Tribbie here can go onto maybe your Jade Herda teams, because Tribbie's going to really synergize with a team like that. It's still a follow-up based team, but because maybe you have Robin on the Fei Xiao team, you can now use Tribbie with your Jade Herda or Jade whatever, or the Herda whatever that Erudition team might look like, and that's going to work really well. Because before Tribbie, it's always, well, I want to use my Robin for my Herda team, but now my Fei Xiao team can't have that, or whatever other team that may really, really want Robin. So that's kind of why, once again, going back to, I see Tribbie as kind of having another Robin on your account, which is going to be very awesome, of course, because Robin and Tribbie, just after looking at all this, are very high-value characters. Looking at Yunli, just really quickly for team building, she's the destruction unit. She has a counter, so she can work in some follow-up teams, can be pretty fun with a character like Jade, who can help her with her stacks, but she's kind of flexible because she is destruction. She's not completely dead set to the follow-up teams or dead set to AoE or single target. She kind of falls in the middle ground, kind of similar to how when we compare characters like Boothill, Firefly, and Rappa. Firefly's kind of the good middle ground between Boot Hill, the single target, and Rappa, the AoE focus. So she's a good character if you really like a character like Clara, but you want to see more out of that kind of playstyle, but also able to clear content a little bit more efficiently and consistently. Yunli's your type of character.
I think beyond that, going back to Tribbie real quick, honestly, it's also very similar to what you're going to see in Ruan-Mei. A lot of people just use Ruan-Mei in general just to kind of throw her in with other characters that maybe aren't break specific purely because of that resistance pen. And although Ruan-Mei gives, when her burst or that ultimate gives those 2 turns of 25% resistance pen at level 10, Tribbie uses only her skill and it's 3 turns for 24%. So not that much of a, take, but at the same time, because Ruan-Mei has all those break things with all the break efficiency as well as extra break damage and whatever, pushing enemies down further by if they try to come back up after being broken, they go further down the turn. I think Ruan-Mei is another thing to keep in mind. So if you are using Ruan-Mei just for other characters, you can now probably possibly use Tribbie instead, or if you were thinking about getting her for a certain unit for the resistance pen, now you actually have the ability to use and switch out a character like Ruan-Mei for Tribbie, put her there, and then put Ruan-Mei back into those break teams, maybe specifically for you. Looking beyond that though, looking at teams, let's go ahead and talk up quickly about the 2 different light cones we have. 2 different light cones. The first one is going to be the Harmony for if time were a flower, specifically for Tribbie. Her light cone at S1 states that it increases the wearer's crit damage by 36% after the wearer launches a follow-up attack, additionally regenerates 12 energy and gains presage, lasting for 2 turns. While the wearer has presage, all allied targets' crit damage is increased by 48%. When entering battle, the wearer regenerates 21 energy and gains presage for lasting for 2 turns. So, a bunch of crit damage as well as all allied targets also getting more crit damage. It's just helping with a huge stack here. We normally, with the rest of what her kit kind of shows, we are seeing some damage increases and we are seeing some other, the resistance pen obviously. But looking at the light cone here, it's now going right over into some of the other Harmony units buffs as well, talking about crit damage increases for them. So it is kind of cool to see, and especially once again to trigger this a lot of that time to get that follow-up attack. Remember, you're going to need to use other characters' ultimates to trigger Tribbie's follow-up attack, which is then going to give you presage to give the crit damage. And then also when you enter battle, you're going to get even more. Plus, it's a lot of energy help. She loves to use her ultimate consistently, which keep in mind is also when you use your ultimate, then it resets the entire ultimate usage for your other characters. So she would only have 1 follow-up attack per character, but as soon as she uses an ultimate, then it can happen again. So it allows that to kind of be consistent. I'm not really sure that too many other Harmony units are really going to want this. It can be helpful, especially if you are using it for a character who likes crit damage, like Sparkle or like Sunday, who kind of like to have their crit damage high. But at that point in time, honestly, get their own personal light cones. Like Star Rail is normally about, honestly, the light cones that are with the characters are very specific to them. Then looking at Dance at Sunset for Yunli, at S1, this is going to be Destruction Light Cone. It states that it greatly increases the wearer's chance of getting attacked and increases crit damage by 36%. After the wearer uses the ultimate, receives 1 stack of Fire Dance, lasting for 2 turns and stacking up to 2 times. Each stack of Fire Dance increases the damage dealt by the wearer's follow-up attack by 36%. Same thing as the other one. Half of this light cone, superimposition can kind of be used, this ability to be used for other characters. But besides that, that's practically it. It's very obviously specific to each character, so that's how it's really going to look for these specific characters for their specific light cones. Try not to really put them on anybody else.
I just like how effectively with Tribbie's light cone, we have successfully merged 3 Harmony units into one. We have a Sparkle, Ruan-Mei, and Robin merged into one character. Now, not in terms of power level, but we have, we see the resistance penetration in just simply her skill. That's unique to previously Ruan-Mei. Sparkle and Robin don't really have that. Robin has that with the E1, I know. But now we have the crit damage increase in the light cone, which is now she's doing what Sparkle can do, and even Sunday at that point. But then we also see, hey, I have a follow-up attack. Here's a follow-up attack, more damage, the additional damage, kind of similar to how Robin does that. So it's just it's really cool. In other words, Tribbie is a very valuable character. If you've watched up to this point and you still don't know, hey, you can't go wrong with Tribbie.
Tribbie seems like a very solid option. Once again, though, as we talk about in the team sections, probably stick to if you grab the Herta or if you really like Herta. Probably going to do exceptionally well in things like, yes, the MOC, just because of how it's probably going to be geared towards using her, but specifically probably going to see a lot more fun with her usability in those pure fiction runs specifically. So if you need a little bit of extra help there and looking for support to help you there, that's the one to go for sure. Well, we hope that this video could help you decide on whether or not you guys want either character on the banner, or if you guys are looking at Lightcones as well. Thank you guys for watching the video. As always, if you have any other suggestions, let us know down in the comments. Who are you guys going for? Are you guys looking to get for Tribbie? Are you guys looking for the rerun for Yunli? I know some of these changes have kind of happened. We thought there were going to be 4 characters on the banners, and now all of a sudden there's only 2. So let us know what you guys think about that as well. Thank you again for watching the video though, and we'll see you guys in the next one.